All right, so hi everyone, happy Friday. Welcome to another discovery session with Efficiency Canada. I'm your host, Natalie Irwin, Director of Stakeholder Engagement here at Efficiency Canada. I'm joined today by Ian Maddock with myHEAT. He's the co-founder and Chief Revenue Officer, and Ryan Mitchell, Vice President at St. John Energy, and his coworker, Ingrid Harris, Manager of Consumer Products at St. John Energy. So we really have like almost coast to coast to coast representation here today. I'm really excited for this. I was also really excited today about the federal government announcement. It's not energy efficiency related, but I'm really excited, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners or joiners here today are too. The $400 million announced for active transportation, so things like bikes and pathways and pedestrian bridges. So I know we've all been spending a lot of time at home, and when you join on Monday, people ask what you did on the weekend, and a lot of us say I went for a walk. So I'm really excited to have new areas to walk in the few coming years. So that's just a personal shout out to the $4 million. So I'm excited for that. Again, a quick overview of what's going to happen today. If you're new, we usually like to save questions to the end. Our presenters are going to speak for about 20 minutes, and then we have 20 minutes for Q&A at the end, so usually lots of time to get through all the discussion. There are two ways to ask questions. One is you can raise your hand and I can unmute you. The second way is the Q&A box down at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Type in your question and I will narrate it for you as best as I can. So without further ado, let's get started. Thanks again for joining us, Ian, Ingrid, and Ryan.
Well, welcome everyone. Thanks very much. We're going to talk about Energy Made Visible in St. John, New Brunswick, which is a partnership between myHEAT out of Calgary, Alberta, and St. John Energy out of New Brunswick. As Natalie mentioned, my name is Ian Maddock. I'm the co-founder and Chief Revenue Officer with myHEAT. And on behalf of Ingrid and Ryan, I want to thank you very much for including us today, and appreciate the invite from Natalie and Efficiency Canada. With this partnership, myHEAT provided St. John Energy with a remote engagement solution that was really tailored to fit to their new home heat saver program. And we wanted to make sure that that also integrated with their customer account platform going forward. So myHEAT does as it does with all of our projects, we do a thermal data collection where we create thermal images for each of the rooftops in the city, as we did in St. John, with the idea being that we want to create individual maps for homeowners to pinpoint areas where they're losing heat from their home. We create, in our processing, we create individual heat maps that show potential areas of where a homeowner is losing heat in the red areas and the more efficient areas in blue. And the home is given a score from 1 to 10. 1 are the most efficient homes and 10 are the least efficient homes. So the homeowner would see how their home compares to homes in the immediate area, as well as the entire city of St. John. Homes that are rated 6 or higher in the myHEAT rating system typically have the largest opportunity to help you try and combat energy poverty, to look to ways to get large reductions in consumption and resulting GHG emissions, and then to improve overall energy literacy. Accessing their St. John Energy account, a homeowner would see a homepage similar to what you see on the screen there, or on the left-hand side, you see their myHEAT heat rating from 1 to 10. It would show the neighborhood rating that they live in, and then the city as well of St. John. In the middle, they would have their personalized pseudo-colorized image from myHEAT, pinpointing the areas where there'd be heat loss escaping from their home. And then on the right-hand side would be the direct clicked buttons to access the home heat saver program offered by St. John. In the project, St. John has been using the technology to reach those hard to reach customers. So really trying to find those people that maybe don't know a lot about energy efficiency, showing them where the opportunities exist and pointing them towards energy efficiency programs that can help them out. One of the real powers of the myHEAT tool is really the ability to create that very personalized image, which is somebody's home. And because of that, it really does create a great engagement with homeowners, and it helps to boost program participation in things like the Home Heat Saver program. And Ryan and Ingrid will speak to kind of how that's gone for them in the program to date. And then, of course, one of the other big things that we're trying to get people to do is to change their consumption behaviors and really to promote energy efficiency in general. With that, the partnership to date has really been a great success, and I put that down to Ryan and Ingrid and the St. John Energy team. They've been very engaged in the process. They've created a fantastic video that they use to show the homeowners in St. John and explain to them what the opportunities are. And by using the myHEAT platform, they've had some great success. So I'm going to turn it over to really the stars of today's show, which is Ryan and Ingrid, and they can tell you about how the program's gone in the city of St. John.
All right, well, thank you, Ian, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ryan Mitchell, and I'm the Vice President with St. John Energy, and I'm joined by Ingrid Harris, who is our Manager of Consumer Products. And we're going to share our experience with our friends over at myHEAT as part of our recent Home Heat Saver program. So if you can advance to the next slide, Ian. All right, so let's jump in with just a brief introduction to our organization. St. John Energy is a municipally owned distribution utility servicing the residents and businesses in St. John, New Brunswick for almost 100 years. St. John Energy is a relatively small, lightly regulated utility that prides ourselves in being nimble and innovative in our service offerings. And with that, there's really three things that we are most known for. Number one, we offer the lowest electricity rates in Atlantic Canada. Second, we offer some of the highest reliability in the country, as reported by the Canadian Electricity Association. So then when you combine innovation, low rates, and high reliability, as you might expect, we enjoy a very high customer satisfaction rating. As a matter of fact, in recent polling conducted by the Canadian Electricity Association, St. John Energy achieved a Net Promoter Score rating, which is a metric measuring the response to the question, how likely are you to recommend this company to a friend or family member? So to that question, St. John Energy scored a +39. The Canadian utility average scored a -2, and the Atlantic Canadian average was a -22. So I'd like to suggest that St. John Energy's Home Heat Saver program is an example of a project that has allowed us to strengthen our brand in the market, contributing to this rating. So in terms of an introduction to the city itself, St. John is Canada's first incorporated city. So it won't surprise you when I say that around 40% of the homes in St. John were built prior to 1960. But it may surprise you if I told you that not only in St. John, but in the province of New Brunswick, 70% of the homes are heated by electricity. Now, that's primarily electric baseboard, as well as heat pumps, and certainly heat pumps are gaining in popularity. So that's really why St. John Energy, the electric distribution utility, sought out to create the Home Heat Saver program, a first of its kind in Atlantic Canada. So with that, just as a bit of an introduction, I'll now turn it over to Ingrid to provide some more specifics of our program and the results.
Hello, and welcome to seeing a little bit of insight of what we've learned through using the myHEAT technology. So as Ryan had mentioned, St. John is one of Canada's oldest incorporated city. We have a lot of older homes. They're beautiful, but they struggle with heat loss. And not only is wasting energy bad for the environment, but it leads obviously to expensive heating bills, especially in the winter. So the three primary goals of our program was to really engage customers, help them improve their energy literacy, to take action, so to view their home heat saver profile, log on to their online account, and really see what their score was and give them some insight as to how they could improve their heat loss. We really wanted to do something to help our customers better understand their home heat loss and how to improve it. And while doing that, it certainly led us to be able to continue to build, St. John Energy as a progressive and innovative utility in the community, and build that trust in our community that we're providing them with neat solutions and ways to make their home energy more efficient.
Awesome.
So those were our goals, and we'll go on to the next slide. Before launching the program, we completed a bit of testing by giving the select customers a sneak peek of their home profile. And this is what we found. So, and you can put all the bullets there. 50% discovered Areas in their home losing more heat than expected. So that's pretty significant. We had 60% of this group that said they would actually consider making some home energy upgrades. And 90% said they would consider having a home energy evaluation to learn more about their home efficiency. So we're pretty excited about these preliminary findings thus far in the program, and we're certainly looking forward to continuing on to complete some additional market research in the coming months with a broader group of consumers to really gain some more insight. Next slide. So this is actually, here's some firsthand feedback from a home heat saver user, Gary Grattan. I didn't know him before this program, so that just goes to show you how great it is to engage with customers who perhaps we've never have engaged in a way before. So as you can see through the program, you know, we're engaging with our customers in a very different way. And they're expecting us to engage in this manner as well. So we're meeting customer expectations because they want to do something and they don't know what to do. And they didn't even know perhaps that they had an issue in their home. So I think continuing to grow our brand in our community as a trusted partner for our customers is key. It's hard to put a value on that, but certainly, you know, this just gives an example of some of the good customer feedback that we're receiving. Next slide. So some of the successes that we've had as a result of rolling out this program. So we're on track to hit our target number of users of the program. We have, you know, as of February 28th, we're 74% there. We've seen a 28% increase in traffic to our heat pump rental page. So if you didn't know anything about us before, we do have a heat pump rental and a water heater rental program that we offer to our customers in the city of St. John. So we've seen an increase of 20% year over year since we've launched this project. And what's really interesting is we've had a 90% growth in new users signed up to go onto their online customer portal. Now, of course, COVID and you know, people moving, et cetera, would certainly contribute to that 90% increase. But nonetheless, you know, there was a significant increase that we've seen in people going onto our portal, which is really great because then they get into electronic billing and we can communicate with them and engage them in a very different way, again, which I mentioned before. So we've had lots of excellent traction on social media by community influencers. I've been on the radio, you know, Ryan's been speaking about this. We've been involved in the community through high school classroom educations, where we've, you know, actually taken teachers' houses and shown, you know, to the kids in the class, and then they return back because they've had their parents go online. So we're doing a lot of really community outreach like that. And certainly, you know, industry associations and partners like yourself, we've been invited to speak at forums. And this is really only 3 months, 4 months really launched in the project. So pretty excited about some of the other things that we're going to be finding out as we continue here. So I think, you know, to summarize, heat loss equals energy wasted equals high heating costs and bigger environment impact. So we're hoping that this program will continue to inspire homeowners to check out their home heat saver profile, have a more detailed home energy evaluation through the programs that are provided in our province, so that they can take control over their heat loss, which will ultimately have a better positive impact on their bank account and the environment. So we wanted to find a way to help our customers take control of their home heat loss, and we've certainly made some great strides to do just that. And now I'll turn it back over to you, Ryan, for some closing remarks.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Ingrid. So in terms of going forward, as Ingrid has articulated, this program was a great opportunity for St. John Energy to further in building trust with our customers. We certainly want customers to turn to St. John Energy first for their energy needs. And as Ingrid mentioned, part of our innovation is around offering energy efficient products to our customers, like heat pumps, hot water tanks, street lights. So for example, over 60% of our customers rent a product like that from St. John Energy. So programs like the Home Heat Saver program, is really represents a great way for us to engage with our customers and promote existing, as well as look to bring new energy efficient product offerings, to the market. So certainly we're looking at, what do we bring next? Is it managed EV charging? Is it residential storage? Is it rooftop solar? Would we look to do on-bill financing for insulation? Obviously, there's lots of opportunity, for growth within that line of business, which has been very successful for St. John Energy. So I'll just end with, if you're interested in learning more about St. John Energy, then I would encourage you to sign up for our newsletter, which you can access from our website, or look to follow us on social media. So with that, I will turn it back to Natalie.
Thanks so much, Ryan, and thanks, Ian, and thanks, Ingrid. Fantastic presentation. I know that a lot of people are really excited already. I could see the chat going on and everyone, a lot of like, this is a fantastic program comments. So just a reminder to people, there are two ways to ask questions. One is raise your hand and I'll unmute you and you can ask yourself. I see that we do have some keeners here doing that today. And there's already some questions in the Q&A box, so I'm going to jump to those. So I'm going to actually go to someone that's raised their hand first. So I'm going to go to John. Go ahead and ask your question, John. No, he won't let me unmute him. Okay, Oscar, we're going to go to you. Technology is just not our friend today.
You're slowly making me feel better. This is good.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, there's one way to ask questions today. In the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Sorry, John Oscar, thank you so much for trying. We're so close. But I see, John, actually you have one question in the box here. Your first one here is, you're actually coming from Toronto. So living in Toronto, this might be for Ian here. I asked if thermal imaging done in the 1980s was available. I was told that this wasn't done because of privacy issues. Was the answer unfounded, or is there something to their reply? If it's a privacy issue, how would other properties be quote unquote protected?
Yeah, no, great question. Thank you for that question. Well, from the 1980s, things have changed a lot. And if you look at just the growth of, say, Google and Google Maps, and so think of us no different than Google when it comes to collecting data. There's planes in the air collecting data 24/7. We just happen to use a different sensor to collect, and the image that we do collect is a very benign image. When you do look at the image, you can't tell anything about occupants or whether there's people in the homes or not. We actually have a project that went through a very rigorous regulatory process in the U.S. Northeast, where they had all engagement through all of the stakeholders in the state, which would be a bunch of all of the natural gas and electric utilities, environmental agencies, any interveners, and they actually, even getting everybody on board with using myHEAT with this particular utilities program, they also did a customer survey where they sent out to the homeowners, and they received double their normal amount of responses from customers. And 75% of the homeowners said that they would utilize the information. Almost 80% said that they found, well, 75 found it useful. Almost 80% said that they would utilize the information to help them to do some retrofits to their home. But most importantly, from the utilities perspective, 97% of the people, it said that either improved their opinion of the utility or maintained it the same. So they really reported no concerns on the privacy side of things. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that was a great answer. I was expecting maybe like a yes or no, but that's great. That's a lot of detail.
No. Yeah.
So thanks, Ian. Wealth of information there. I have a question here from Jesse. This might be preemptive, but have you tested the degree to which myHEAT platform contributes to St. John Energy's high net promoter score?
Sure, maybe I can take a run at that. Ingrid, you jump in behind me. I would say that we really haven't looked to directly correlate the impact of the net promoter score that myHEAT would have had on that. And it's primarily because the net promoter score survey was conducted by, I'll say, an independent third party. But certainly when we reflect on it, we obviously can't help but wonder to what extent it may have influenced it, because the timing was around, it was really around the same time. So I don't have a great answer for you on that, but we would be interested in better understanding that for sure.
Just before I go to the next question, Ingrid, do you want to add anything to that?
I was just going to just add that we did have fairly high scores prior to, but I think I think that's important. We've been doing some really neat things over the last, few years that I think has contributed to community engagement. And certainly this is just one more thing to keep boosting the NPI up more.
That's great. I have a question here actually from Tom. Again, he's one of these people that think that this is a great program, because he says it right away. What other cities have used this approach, Ian? Was the area, and the follow-up question to that is, was the aerial scan developed at the University of Calgary via or circa 2012?
Yeah, definitely know your stuff. That's absolutely where the myHEAT platform came out of, the University of Calgary. And with regards to the cities we've collected, the majority of the cities we've collected to date are in the US. That's where the majority of our business is, with natural gas and electric utilities in the US. So you wouldn't see them if you were to go on our platform, because almost all of our deals are done on a utility-facing private platform. So that gives them the ability to be very specific about who they want to target from a customer perspective. That's one of the cool things about the myHEAT platform, is we can, looking at the least efficient homes, we can combine publicly available census data, where we can look at income levels, we can look at combining that with the utility consumption data and known payment history, so we can be very specific about who we want to target. And that's why the utilities like to have that inward facing. So you wouldn't see the number of cities that we've collected, but it's, I think we're over 50 cities now that we've collected. And to date, as we've grown our business, they've been very deal specific data collection. So not, we haven't been doing any strategic data collections. They're more, we sign a deal with a utility for specific cities to be collected, and those are the ones that we have to date.
And are any of them outside Canada?
The majority are.
Oh, interesting. That's great.
Yeah,
So
I'd
a
say
success story.
I'd say 95% of our business is in the US utility market.
There you go. So if you're in the US listening, get in touch with Ian, or in Canada, come on. We can't fall behind here. There's scorecard rankings on this, exactly. After all. There's actually a similar question to this. So like a follow-up question from Camilla is, again, very interesting program. I was also curious about the privacy limitations that you've had to go through. Are drains used for aerial heat imaging?
So another great question, and I think I addressed kind of the privacy side of things in my earlier response. We do use a turboprop aircraft to do our data collection. So we have obviously a very specialized sensor that fits inside the bottom of a turboprop aircraft. And just to give you an idea of speed of collection, Calgary, where I live, is about 1,200 square kilometers geographically, and it takes us about 2 to 4 nights to collect all the data for Calgary. We do have the ability to utilize drones, but a couple of challenges with that. Most jurisdictions still have restrictions on flying drones at night. So if you can't see it, you can't fly it. And we do a nighttime collection because we want a cool, clear, dry evening to do our data collection, to allow all of the natural heat that's occurred during the day with the sun heating up different materials. We want those to cool down naturally so that we can do our data collection. So with the drones, there's a challenge of flying at night. And quite frankly, we'd need an army of drones to collect what we can collect with a turboprop aircraft over 2 to 4 nights.
Awesome. That's good to know. All right, a question here from Nick is, did St. John Energy consider using more traditional approaches, such as a home energy report? So what made you choose myHEAT?
Ingrid, do you want to respond to that one?
You chose it. I think, again, looking for different ways, different programs to offer. This was unique, and it was the first time, the first of its kind in Atlantic Canada. And, I think that speaks well too. You can do a lot of the same. And really, St. John Energy, we don't do energy audits. It's provincially run, so we can direct customers and advise them to go. But then we need to figure out ways to get them back to us. Like, how do we engage that customer? And we give them a score and they go away. How do we get them back? And that just goes into what I was talking about, just being a real trusted partner, that we're giving them the facts. We're not sugarcoating it. This is it. And, of course, we're in it to make money too. But I think if you really share and engage customers, it'll come, full round on all levels.
Definitely. Ryan, did you want to add something or?
Yeah, no, I think Ingrid got it. We are not, I guess that's the other thing, like as Ingrid alluded to, that's a bit unique, is we do not have the official mandate of energy efficiency for St. John. That sits with the provincial utility, MB Power, but customers of St. John Energy can access those programs. But certainly, as Ingrid mentioned, we felt, this was something that would benefit our customers. So we want to be bringing value to our customers. And that was the reason why we stepped forward. And certainly we encourage customers as they go through this process to get the home energy report done. So we kind of provide the linkage to, the provincial utilities, provincial energy efficiency programming, and connect them with that and encourage them to take that next step as well.
That's a fantastic point as well. And I'm going to throw this question over to Ian, because I'm curious, you probably hear from your clients, why do people choose myHEAT? Like, what's their most common answer that you guys get?
Yeah, great question. Initially I'd say that they're having a problem getting uptake in their programs, and they're really struggling to have a unique engagement tool to get people interested in this topic. Prior to working full-time with myHEAT, I was in the natural gas trading and marketing space for almost 30 years. And what's interesting in that span, I did long-term structured deals for a product that you couldn't see. You can't see natural gas. And what intrigued me about myHEAT when I got involved in it is the fact that this is helping to see energy that's escaping from your home. And I think it's that visual engagement and that very personalized visual engagement when a homeowner sees, probably their single largest investment that they own, seeing their home and seeing there's areas that they have energy escaping, which for most people equates to money, having that energy escaping. And I think that's the power is really that visual engagement that we can offer.
Definitely, it makes it real, right? It's similar to energy efficiency. You can't see it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I used to have a coworker that said, he's still in the sector, I've just changed companies, that he used to say that, you can't have a dump truck full of energy savings. Like you can't see it. So that's definitely one of the challenges for sure. And actually a question here, Ian, for you from Amanda, is myHEAT being used for commercial and institutional buildings, or is it just residential at this time?
Yeah, another great question, Amanda. The cool thing is, as I mentioned, I gave you that example of collecting the City of Calgary data in that 2 to 4 night span. That's done through doing flight paths back and forth to collect the buildings beneath. So we're collecting all of the buildings in the city. So we have our residential platform, which has been kind of our sort of flagship platform as we've grown our business, but we've seen more interest on the commercial side of things. So we absolutely can create an individual platform from the data set to highlight the commercial buildings. The one difference on the residential platform versus the commercial or institutional buildings is we don't have a heat rating system. Just given the varied sizes of commercial buildings, it's more complex to do a rating system. We could ultimately get to a point where we could cluster similar size commercial buildings and provide a comparative measure, but for now we don't have a heat rating system. Where on the residential side, because of the history we have working on it, and most buildings are fairly similar in shapes and size, through our machine learning, we can do our our rating system. But that's the main difference between the two platforms.
Very interesting. I also have a question on here from, I guess it would be more for St. John Energy, is apart from the topping up the attic insulation, what has been the most common effective building envelope upgrade that people have done?
Do you want to take that one, Ingrid? I would say windows, but I think you probably know better than even I do.
Yeah, so we did actually do a survey and dig into what people were going to do, and sealing gaps was kind of another. Windows and doors would be the third most popular, followed by renting a heat pump, something like that, to improve efficiencies. But insulation was definitely number one. And again, we've just started this program. These are preliminary findings, and you know, this is really going to, you know, we have the survey ready to go. We're going to continue collecting this feedback, but certainly all indications are kind of those top four.
And Ian, do you find that common among your other clients as well, or is it varied depending on state and country?
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming to me to ask me that, because we did have a project that we did in the city of Medicine Hat in southern Alberta, where we did a randomized control trial. So there was a portion of the population that saw the myHEAT information, one that saw a traditional home energy report, and then which is kind of showing how your home's consumption compares to homes of a similar size in the immediate area. And then there was the control group, which received no information. The one common thing that each group saw was linked to the programs that were available through Energy Efficiency Alberta. And looking at how the myHEAT group compared to the control group, so the people who saw the image of their home versus people who just saw a link to a program, there's a 30% higher participation in weatherization programs, windows, insulation. And then what's really more interesting was the spillover, and Ingrid talked a little bit about that with heat pumps, for example, is there was a 20% higher participation from the myHEAT group that saw the image of their home in all other online energy efficiency rebates. So that image drove people to explore other areas where they could improve the efficiency of their home, not necessarily related to the thermal envelope.
Very interesting. I think this kind of leads to the next question by John here is, again, he also says great presentation. Does the profile show or compare a home's energy use to the neighbors or broader community? Just wondering if you're able to better leverage the social norms and increase participation by such comparisons.
Yeah, great question. You know, if we were to do a publicly facing platform where it was out in the community, absolutely there'd be that great social norm comparison. We do provide that to even when an individual, if they're just receiving their own home page. So for example, if we're dealing with one of our US utility clients and it's a utility facing platform, we provide an access code or a QR code for a homeowner that they would receive, and they would pull up just their homepage. It would show their myHEAT heat rating, that 1 to 10. They'd show the thermal envelope, and then the direct connect to the programs that are available. If we were to do it on a publicly facing platform, absolutely people would have that ability to share it with on social media, to get that kind of social comparison, to share with their friends, their neighbors, to kind of say, this is our home's heat rating, what's yours? But for the ones that do see it just on the inward facing platform that's specific to the homeowner, they do see their heat rating, how they compare to their direct neighborhood, not necessarily their neighbors, and then how they compare to the city.
Very interesting. It's nice to have the combo. Oh, go ahead, Ingrid.
I was just going to jump in. So in St. John Energy, we decided, of course, privacy was a very critical, important piece. So you have to actually sign in, have your URL, you know, basically you're an official customer. You see your profile, you see it against your community. So your score is against that area in St. John. And then you can also see what the St. John average score was. So in St. John's case, it was 6. So that's not great compared to what Ian was showing you, the 1 to 10. So if my house is a 4, my community might be a 5, and the St. John city is 6. So you can kind of see and do that comparison. So that's just how we've used it.
And I would say what we are looking at, and I think the question was kind of asking as well, like have we correlated the the home heat loss with actual energy consumption. So that is something that is ahead of us yet. We haven't done that yet to make that correlation, but we would expect we would find pretty interesting insights from doing that.
I can actually
Definitely.
speak to that correlation. Sorry to interrupt you there, Natalie, but I can speak to that correlation in the Medicine Hat project, where there were two academic partners that ran that randomized control trial that I was mentioning, and they were provided from the city of Medicine Hat, which owns its own natural gas and electric utility. They're provided 3 years of historic consumption data and then consumption data during the actual randomized control trial. And so they took that information away. They had the age of the homes, the square footage of the homes, they had an enormous amount of data, and they did some analysis, and what they found actually was a correlation in consumption to our heat rating. So as a home became less efficient in that 1 to 10 scale, each marker equated to an incremental electricity consumption of 1.5% and gas consumption of 3.5% to 5%. So in other words, if Ryan and I are neighbors, we have a similar size home built in a similar time frame, and my Ryan's house is rated a 5 and mine's a 6, so mine's less efficient, I'd be consuming 1.5% more electricity than him on average, and 3.5 to 5% more gas. In the extreme scale, if Ryan's done a bunch of upgrades and retrofits to his home and his is a 1 and mine's a 10, I'm consuming 15% more electricity, 35 to 50% more gas. So there absolutely is that ability to get the correlation to each of our projects. And it might change slightly from the different dynamics from city to city you collect, but there is definitely the correlation that can be drawn to the heat rating system.
And I'm curious, Ian, are most of your clients do because Ingrid, you mentioned this is like an opt-in. Are most people using our clients or projects able to do opt-in, or so some people do you're in and then you have to opt out?
Yeah, great question. For the majority of our US ones, which again are kind of utility facing platforms, and they reach out to specific customers in their distribution areas, they are in opt out, and people will, and we get very few that opt out.
Yeah, and do you see?
One thing, sorry,
oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
I was
No,
gonna say,
no,
do you see?
I'll add one.
Do you see differences
You go.
in the success rate of the program when there's opt-in versus opt-out?
Not necessarily on the opt-in versus opt-out. I think the difference in success rate really comes down to the engagement of our customer, the utility or municipality that we're dealing with. If they're engaged and they're working like St. John has been doing, and how engaged St. John has been, and the creation of I mentioned this video they did, which is like a 55-second video, like the work that they've done to really promote it into their community. The more you do that and the more you get engaged, I think the more you're going to get out of the programs. I was just going to mention, to touch back to some of the questions we had on privacy earlier. In Canada, we've had publicly published, we actually just recently took the cities down. We had publicly published about 1 million homes that were up there for about 3.5 years. In that period of time, I think we had 15 homeowners reach out to us asking us to remove their home from the platform. And interestingly, in that same period of time, for the areas that we collected, for people that were just outside of those collection areas, we've had several hundred reach out asking when we're adding their homes onto the platform. So overall, on a public platform, a lot of interest and very little concern on the privacy side of things.
It's good to point out. I think there's just time for one last question here. Judith has a question here. Does the time, it's been a popular one, does the time of year that you run the scans have major impacts on the data? And do you need to be taken during the coldest time of year?
Great question. We do spring or fall data collections in the sort of the northern tier climates, because we're looking for a cool, clear, dry evening where we get a good temperature differential between the ambient temperature outside and homeowners having their heat source turned on. So the heat source that they use is irrelevant. We just want to be able to see the net temperature difference between the ambient temperature outside and the homeowner having their heat turned on. So typically spring or fall is when we're doing our data collection. People think automatically you do it in the winter, but things like snow are natural insulators, so that impact the temperature measurement. And I'll just point out, from a resolution standpoint, we collected a very high resolution. It's sub 1 meter per pixel. So it's very accurate from a resolution standpoint, and a very high temperature accuracy as well.
I'll take your word for it. It sounds impressive to me. So Ryan, thanks for coming back. I don't know, it must be a full moon or something, Mercury retrograde, but Ryan and Ingrid dropped off there. I'm not sure why, but Ryan's back. So you'll have to pass on our thanks to Ingrid for joining us.
I'm here.
Oh, great. She's here. So
I think we've lost our internet for whatever reason.
oh, well, it makes sense. It makes sense for today. But thank you, Ian, and thank you, Ryan and Ingrid, for joining us today. I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. And just before we go off, I want to mention next week, we were going to have a break, but I'm excited to share that we're going to be back next Friday with actually Steve Nadal, who's the executive director at ACEEE, so the American Council for an Energy Efficient Economy down in the USA. And they're going to be joined by two of our policy team members, James Getty and Brendan Haley, who are going to talk about the state and provincial carbon prices and implications for energy efficiency. So there was a co-report that we released last week. Well, ACEEE mostly released it, and we spread their news. They have a slightly bigger audience, but they had a head start. And we'll discuss which jurisdictions are bolstering energy efficiency alongside carbon pricing, and why energy efficiency policies become more important as carbon prices rise. So a really interesting discussion for next week. I'm glad that we were able to fit Steve in. He fit us into his schedule more so than the other way around. So again, thank you, Ryan, Ian, and Ingrid. Have a wonderful weekend, and enjoy the outdoors and go for a walk, and maybe stay off technology for the afternoon. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.